The U.S. says that 3 soldiers are dead and at least 25 others are wounded after a drone attack on a military base in Jordan, border with Syria. Now, this attack targeted a base known as Tower 22. This is right across the Syrian border and very, very close to a U.S. military base in Syria that's been run by Special Operation Forces as part of their anti-Islamic State fight for years. Now, militia groups in Iraq have claimed this attack. They say they launched a drone targeting the U.S. forces. It remains unclear just how bad the damage is on the base. However, we've heard from U.S. President Joe Biden, who said that the U.S. is willing to retaliate at a time and a place of its choosing in the future. And all of this comes as we've seen wider tensions in the Middle East over Israel's ongoing war with Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Now, the attack was claimed by these Iraqi militia groups that are part of an umbrella organization backed by Iran. This is just another sign of just how unstable the Middle East is. We have seen other attacks claimed by Iranian-backed militias in the wider region since the Israeli war on Hamas began. That includes attacks by the Houthis on shipping in the Red Sea, as well as cross-border attacks by Lebanon's Hezbollah group on Israel. Moving forward, it remains unclear exactly what will happen next, but it shows just how wide the conflict has grown and just how dangerous it's become in the wider Middle East.
All right, folks, you hear that? 3 citizens from different corners of Georgia were killed in a weekend drone strike on a U.S. base in Jordan near the Syrian border. This drone strike also wounded 40 other people. Families of the slain reservists say that they were shocked when uniformed military officers came to their doors to deliver the news on Sunday. This is from the Associated Press, by the way. Specialist Kennedy Sanders and Specialist Breonna Moffett became close friends soon after enlisting in the Army 5 years ago, while Sergeant William Jerome Rivers served a tour in Iraq before joining the same company of Army engineers. Now, President Joe Biden has promised that the U.S. will respond, which they have today. If you watch the breaking news on TV today, the U.S. has started responding. Moffitt's parents say that they hope that there is no escalation in violence that kills more American troops. Their daughter celebrated her 23rd birthday overseas just 9 days before she was killed. Wow. Breonna Moffett joined the Army Reserve in 2019 after graduating from high school. In addition to her military service, she worked for a home care provider, cooking, cleaning, and running errands for people with disabilities. Wow. When Moffett left with fellow soldiers from the 718th Engineer Company, 926th Engineer Battalion based at Fort Moore in August, it was her first overseas deployment. She was the oldest of 4 siblings. Every morning, Francine Moffett said her 8-year-old daughter would call her big sister to say hello while riding to school. Whenever the Moffett family called, they typically would hear from Sanders, too. A native of Waycross, Georgia, which is about 100 miles southwest of Savannah, 24-year-old Sanders had volunteered for the Middle East deployment, eager to see a new part of the world, her parents said. At home, she helped coach children's soccer and basketball teams. She also worked at a pharmacy while taking college courses with the aim of becoming an X-ray technician. Lately, however, she considered becoming a full-time soldier on active duty once her Army Reserve contract was fulfilled. Now, at age 46, Rivers had far more military experience than the 2 young women. The Defense Department said he joined the Army Reserve in 2011 and served a 9-month tour in Iraq in 2018. He joined the 718th Engineering Company at Fort Moore last year and lived in Carrollton, which is about 25 miles west of Atlanta. The Associated Press was unsuccessful in its attempt to contact Rivers' family on Monday. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp issued a statement mourning the inexcusable loss of life. of these 3 soldiers, saying that they gave the last full measure of devotion in service to this country. Army Brigadier General Todd Lazorski, commander of Army Reserve's 412th Theater Engineer Command, said in a statement, they represent the best of America. In Sanders' hometown of Waycross, Georgia, flags were lowered to half-staff, and her parents said that her unit first deployed to Kuwait, then to Jordan, where the U.S. operates a logistics support base along the Syrian border. In her spare time while deployed, Sanders would practice jiu-jitsu and run to stay in shape. She relaxed by knitting and called home almost daily, her parents said. While she occasionally mentioned drones being shot down nearby, there was no sense of imminent danger, said Oneida Oliver Sanders, the reservist's mother. When they last spoke the day before she was killed, Sanders says she was thinking about buying a motorcycle, much to her mother's disapproval, and she had spoken recently of buying a home. So once again, thanks to the Associated Press for that great article that told us about these 3 soldiers. Now, obviously, anytime soldiers get killed, it's a big deal. Okay, anytime anybody gets killed, it's a big deal. But I thought particularly this story was newsworthy because every one of these soldiers were black. That's right. Kennedy Sanders, Breonna Moffett, and William Jerome Rivers were all black people from the state of Georgia who were in the Middle East, in Jordan. Why? Why were they there? Because of the military-industrial complex. Now, what the corporate media will probably not tell you is that the reason that there was a drone strike is from the Houthi rebels from Yemen who have been attacking America's bases because the United States is currently funding and sponsoring a genocide of the Palestinian people. And how do we know this? Because when there was a brief ceasefire between the Palestinians and the Israelis and Hamas, the killing stopped, the attack stopped. The whole world is watching what is happening to the Palestinian people, which now has become the most dire human rights situation on the planet. And they are disapproving of it. You're seeing protests all over the world against Israel. I just talked about it last week. The International Court of Justice found that Israel, there is basis to say that Israel might be committing a genocide against an entire ethnic group of people. And so you have these black American people who are from a country that had segregation into the 1960s. I mean, these people from Georgia, so I know their parents and grandparents experienced segregation, where I'm sure they faced some form of racism while they in the military. They are somewhere in the Middle East getting killed to support an apartheid state, basically, because their government is sponsoring this apartheid state. And so for me, this brings me back to a very, I don't think anybody should be joining the military as long as America is a military industrial complex power, as long as we have a system that, I played the audio from our former president, Dwight D. Eisenhower, a few weeks ago on the anniversary of his speech, his outgoing speech, where he coined the phrase military industrial complex. As long as America has decided that war is something that has to keep going on in order for these defense contractors and bankers to make their money, I don't think anybody should be joining the military. But I'm going to say for real, There's definitely no reason for anybody black to be joining the military. And I just think it's absolutely heartbreaking to see black people in a country where we have not been able to get a fair shot at anything since 1619 dying. For what? Like the great Ricky Waters said, for who? For what? For Raytheon? For Boeing? For Lockheed Martin? For Goldman Sachs? For Citigroup and Bank of America and all these people, the banksters, as Franklin Delano Roosevelt called them? I mean, like I said, this is a horribly tragic situation. But I definitely think that we have to, as black people, start educating our young people about how we can somehow avoid participating in the very same system that helped oppress us for so many years. And I know so many black people who've been in the military in my family who had to suffer racist harassment, ended up being sent home from the military because of the way they reacted to racist military harassment. I mean, just listen to these soldiers from Vietnam talking about their experience when they were over there and how they were treated.
How come? It's illegal, they say. It's against regulation. They come down hard. We have to. Yeah. All right, if you don't take it off before you come in the theater, you don't get in theater. You know, this is the way they do this thing. Right on. They said the afro was legal. Am I right or wrong? That's right. That's what they said, it was legal. We can sport an afro. All right. This man, there's a lot of brothers here. This man here's got an afro. This is an afro right here. Or somewhat of an afro. It's not big, no. But they want us to wear skin head. What they call it, high and tight. High and tight. It's not my culture. Am I right or wrong? They come over here, they get, all right, a Vietnamese girl. She called me a nigger. A nigga, a Vietnamese girl, I know it's not part of their language. Can't nobody tell me that's part of their language, but I'm gonna go over here. The beast, you know that? See, we go over here, we fight. Okay, we fight to defend the water we drink, the land we grow our food on, and our way of culture. We also fight to protect Rockefeller's foundations. We fight to protect J.P. Kennedy's foundation, all these different kind of foundations that the black man can't partake of, you understand? And then we go back, we're continuously harassed. It's not necessary. This ain't what we heard, this is what we know. See, we've seen it from the bird's eye point of view. We are the people here now, see? We see it now. This ain't what we heard, you know.
I know y'all haven't been out in the Ville. Now, just like you said, these Oriental people don't know how to where the word nigga came from or nothing. They have to learn how to speak it. You go out there in that Ville, the first time I come over here, I goes out in the Ville, I falls into one of these places, and I'm thrown out because I'm black, you know? Because I'm black. They don't like us. They say, we start trouble. Now, who done put this stuff in their mind? You know what I mean? The beasts came over here and brainwashed these people. We get out here and try to do our thing, and they wants to downrate us. Right on. Because we're black. Because the beasts came over here and told them that we ain't nothing but trouble. Right because we got a strong rapper and they scared we're going to take the women away. Right. You know what I mean?
Well, wait a minute. Let me tell you something about down south. Let's say down high in July of this year right here, when the so-called the beasts, this is what we call them because they act savage and barbarous like animals.
Wow, we call them the beast because they act barbarous and savage like animals. I heard that, brother. That's right there in Vietnam. And I know a lot of y'all listening probably served in Vietnam or your family members served in Vietnam. They sent black people over there to be called niggas by the very same people they were supposed to be liberating. I got an uncle served in the Korean War. And he said the same thing. He said the Korean people would see him and his people in his battalion, and they would say, "Black man, where's your tail? Where's your tail, black man?" White people had told them that black people had tails like rats or something. This is what you're dying for. This is what you're sending your kids to die for. And if you think this is just some relic of the past, I believe I talked about it here at the beginning of the Ukrainian conflict. But the Peace Corps sent a notice out to all black people in the Peace Corps who are going over to Ukraine to, well, just discard if the people start calling you a monkey or a nigger or a blackie or whatever. That's just the way they talk. That's just the culture over there. They just call black people niggers and monkeys. Just discard that. So no, this ain't just some relic of the past. This is what they sending you over there for, to be cannon fodder for the military-industrial complex, where they have already gone around the world telling everybody from Ukrainians to Koreans to Japanese people to Vietnamese people to people in the Middle East that black Americans ain't worth a dog on. And so they think most of us have tails. That's why they come here. A lot of them come here and just think it's okay to disrespect African Americans, because they've been told it's okay to disrespect African Americans. I also think that it's important to shine a light on black people in the military as well, because a lot of things people don't know, like black people, there's over 2 million black military veterans nationwide. 30% of active duty enlisted women in 2016 were black. Now think about that. Black people, 13% of the population, 30% of the active duty enlisted women. 17% of the active and duty enlisted men are black. Now you're talking about a country that has zero problem. Whenever some crime is committed, somebody gets shot, whenever some gangbangers start robbing or stealing in Chicago, they're going to make sure you hear about how black people make up a disproportionate amount of the people arrested for crime, murder, and stuff like that. How many of y'all have ever heard on the news or anywhere else that black people are a disproportionate amount of the people on active duty enlisted people risking their lives? Risking their lives in countries where people don't even like black people. Risking their lives in countries where black people think of black people as less than human. But all this reminds me of a speech I heard some years ago by a brother named Ahmed Lawrence. And this is from the 60s. This brother, full of passion, full of fire. He was talking about how things had to change in this society. And listen to how poignant this is even today, because this is from the 1960s when this brother was saying it. But he was saying all these black people have served this country, and they still have the nerve to deny us our rights. Take it away, brother Ahmed Lawrence.
You know, this revolution is filled with so many ironies, really. First you tell us that it is manly to keep your word. All right? If you are a man, you keep your word. And now all that the black people in this country are demanding, and even the black people in the whole world are demanding, is that you keep your word. You told us we were free. Well, then show us that we're free. You told us that there is justice, equality for all in this country. Well, then stick to your word and let us see the justice and equality for all. Or else admit to us that you're not a man. You're a worm. You're afraid of us. You're afraid to give us equal stand. You're afraid that if you give us equal ground, that we will match you and we will override you. And if that's what you're afraid of us, then tell us that just what you're afraid of. But don't keep hiding it from us and holding this up to us, and every time we ask you for something, you give us a little bit of something, and it's all tokenism. We don't want tokenism. And there are most black men in this world that don't want charity. And yet still every time we ask you for something, you give us a little piece, a little piece. You're playing games with us. We're not children. We're big men. I've seen my father have to put up with all kinds of stuff. He was a big man. He raised a family. He went down south, and he had to go around to the back door with his wife. We're not asking for anything. We're not asking for any favors. All we want is what's ours. Now, there are many black veterans who are coming back, and they're mad. They're angry. Do you think that they're going to sit down through this? Our fathers didn't have the knowledge that we had. They sat through it. But there are other black youth that are not going to sit through it. We know about Che. We know about Fanon. We've read the books of our revolution. We've listened to Mao and his quotations. We know where we stand. We're not going to sit for it. We're asking, and if we ask and we don't get, we're prepared to stand up and take it. If I ask a man, I tell a man I am hungry. I tell him I am cold. And I ask him to do something about my condition. And this man holds a loaf of bread right in front of me so I can see it, and I keep asking him, I'm begging him to please give me a slice of the loaf of bread. I am hungry. Then it is known by every psychologist that the next step in the progression is I am going to knock him upside the head and take the bread from him. I'm not going to starve to death. All we're asking, no one wants to see blood. No one likes the smell of blood. No one wants war. Anyone who's been in war doesn't want war. Everyone knows what it is to see the inside of a man's gut hanging out and see your friends die, see relatives die. No one wants to regress back to the state of mind where you have to think it's all for the cause, therefore my mother has to die, my wife has to die, my brothers and sisters have to die. No one wants that. But you're pushing us to it. You're leaving us no choice. We're asking, we're begging. The students up at Columbia, they ask. The brothers down south ask. The brothers in Latin America, the brothers in Africa, they're all asking. All they're doing is asking. Our fathers asked. Our grandfathers asked. The presidents of our universities, our colleges had to go to your back doors to beg that their children be given just enough money so that they could be taught something to live off. And yet still they ask and ask and ask, and you refuse to give them anything. Now, we're just about out of patience. We're not going to ask anymore. The news media says that it's only the young that are militant, only the young that want this and want that. Okay, but we're 40% of the black population now. Or we were a year ago, and still yet we're climbing. Before long we'll be 50%, 55%, and then we'll have the command. We're not going to take it. We're not going to take sitting in rotten parks and in places that just aren't fit for living. We're not going to take it. There's a limit to a man's patience, and everyone knows that God, Christ, heaven, everyone knows that what we're asking is not $1 million. All we're asking for is humanity. We're asking to be allowed to live like human beings. And God, you tell us that this is too much to ask. You're sick. You're definitely sick. How can you tell me that it's too much to ask to be a human being?
Woo! My God. could not have said it better myself, Brother Ahmed Lawrence. You know, this was in the 60s. Just think about that. Was 60 years ago when he was saying that. And here we are 60 years later. And it's the same questions being asked. And yet, still, black people are expected to shed blood for the military-industrial complex and this apartheid system in Israel and the, you know, guess you could call it the de facto segregation of the United States. Don't let your kids join the military, folks, especially if you're black. Don't do it. I'm sorry. Don't do it. I always tell the story. I always tell the story about myself with the Army recruiter when I was 18 years old. Let me tell the story real quick because I got to go to a break. When I was 18 years old, this military recruiter was on my behind. Boy, he was calling my house all the time, right? And I was thinking about it. I really was thinking about it. And I remember the last time I talked to him was Saturday, September the 8th, 2001. That was 3 days before 9/11. And I remember him telling me, he said, hurry up and make a decision. You know, this is the last time I'm going to call you. We only got a few slots left. I don't know what that was supposed to mean. But he said, hurry up, make a decision. This is the last time I'm going to call you. Are you going to join or not? And I told him, after consulting with my mother and my family, I said no. Reason I said no was because my mother reminded me about all the experiences that people in our family had had in the Army. And I thank God on a daily basis that my mother talked some sense into me and told me not to go and die in the middle of a desert for a country where, like I said, in 2023, Ukrainians that we supposed to be helping are telling black people in the Peace Corps that calling them monkeys and niggas, and they're telling you to just forget about it. Thank God. Thank you, Mom. I know you're listening. Don't let your kids join the military, folks. Don't sacrifice your kids to the military industrial complex. Don't send your black kids, or any color kids, but especially if you're black, don't send your kids over to some other country to kill people of color for this apartheid state in Israel or the de facto segregationist state in the United States. Don't do it. All right, folks. When we get back, we already talked about the military-industrial complex. Well, you're going to love, we're going to talk about the prison-industrial complex and how that affects us. And how many very high-value brands are using slave labor, prison slave labor, to bring you the products that you buy. All right, folks, we'll be right back after these.